Freddy?
Are you okay?
Freddy, listen.
Where are you?
I'm in the basement. I think there's somebody down here. Please. You gotta get me, Freddy.
I'll be there as soon as I can.
I'm scared, Freddy. I'm really scared.
Don't you worry, buddy.
I'm really scared.
On my way.
Where is that coming from? God damn it! Freddy, hurry up, Freddy! Come! Freddy,
Don't
here!
you worry, buddy.
Freddy! Freddy! Freddy, where are you going? I'm right here! Freddy! Freddy, you bitch! How could you leave me? Okay. Yep. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll go with you. Yeah, I'm sorry. Fucking Freddy.
How you doing? Today I'm doing another How I Would Book, but this time it's specifically for the FNAF franchise, the game franchise, and how I would have booked the Five Nights at Freddy's game franchise had they been released with me as its writer. Of course, this is how I Would Book works, so this is how I'm going to be booking it. Now, the first thing I want to make clear is that for these FNAF games, I'm going to go basing off of if every single individual game was to still release and how I would book that release and how I would change some things, certain things here and there to make new timelines, to make, a new story so that it's not just the same old story, just adding on, retconning bullshit like that. So this time, I'm going to have it be to where I would keep Five Nights at Freddy's 1 through 3, the games, the exact same. I would add some more dread to FNAF 3 as well as better jump scare for Springtrap. FNAF 4, I'd keep the same too, but I'm not going down the stupid illusion shit. Nah, I'm going nightmares, classic style. Oh, kid is having a nightmare about Freddy and it looks nightmarish as hell. I'm going that style with FNAF 4. And another thing is that I'm going to be including Silver Eyes as it was originally intended to be, which was that it was supposed to be the untold story in Five Nights at Freddy. So I'm going to be basing Silver Eyes in the canon here with FNAF 1 through 4, but I'm not including Twisted Ones or Fourth Closet. That's going to be its own thing. I'm also going to say that Sister Location, I'm going to be booking that as a completely new story, or maybe a new timeline, maybe a new canon. But for me, FNAF 1 through 4, that is going to be the series, and the novel is going to be the untold story, the untold answers. And with that knowledge, here is how I would book those games and that novel. How I would book it is that in 1983, William Afton, which is his name based off of the novel, kidnaps Sammy, which is what he does in the novel, but rather than killing Sammy, he adopts Sammy because he wanted Sammy. He wanted Sammy as his own kid because it probably maybe has to do with something like his wife was cheating on him or something with Henry, and that he believes that Sammy should have been his child, that Charlie should have been his child, but he takes Sammy instead and tries to break some tension. Or maybe it's something else. Like, maybe he's going through some financial struggles, some personal problems with his own son, Mike, and he's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna go take Henry's child, see how he does, see what he's got to go through, put some pain on some Henry. So then that results in the first place that they created, Henry and William, Fredbear's Family Diner, being closed, and then of course next in line would be Fredbear and Friends. So 4 years goes by, and Fredbear and Friends is doing so well that they manage to create multiple businesses. Multiple businesses begin to strive from the Fazbear Entertainment name, or the Fredbear Entertainment name anyway. But it would slowly rebrand into Fazbear Entertainment, with Fredbear, being old, and they're going with new animatronics that are like actually robotic rather than just people in costumes and people in suits. And so Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, they're getting a little outdated, and so it's time for the Friends to take over. It's time for Freddy Fazbear to take the spotlight. That probably happened around like 1985 or 1986, but Fredbear is still kicking. His business is still living. But we'd also have a spin-off business, which probably the manager, aka phone guy, is probably running this other business called Sister Location before he's eventually moved to the main Fazbear Entertainment. So then, of course, with all the pressure that's closing in on Afton, he's beginning to feel like, oh shit, I kidnapped this kid. Now I have to, watch my ass, watch my six. All that shit, watch my shit. Meanwhile, the little boy, Sammy, who is now a little bit older, he's going through a lot of trauma. He's suffering and shit. Yeah, he finds friends with Fazbear Entertainment. He finds his friends with Freddy, Foxy, Chica, Bonnie. But the problem is that, he's not in his household. He's not the son. He's not living the life that he should be living. But now, his brother, Mike, fucks with him. He's fucking with him. He's like, you pathetic, you weak, you piece of shit, all this shit. And then eventually leads to the birthday after the kid begins to have nightmares of Fredbear because now all he remembers is being kidnapped by Afton in that costume, so now he's terrified of the place, but he doesn't even realize that he's not in his own household. So then this would lead to the birthday party, and of course the bite of 87, not 83, fuck that. Bite of 87 is with that little boy, and then he's hospitalized. Now I don't think he should die right away. I think he should just be put in a comatose state. I'll eventually get back to that storyline, but this fucks with Afton. Now Afton's pissed. His suits are failing, all that shit, and now his son is in the hospital and crap. Nah, that boy pissed now. So what does Afton do? Afton goes and he murders. He doesn't just murder anybody, though. He murders 5 kids in particular. He murders 5 kids at a birthday party, specifically Michael Brooks' birthday party, because that's what the kid was in the novel. And the kids I would have is Michael Brooks, Cassidy, Susie, Fritz, and Gabriel, because we already have a Jeremy, so taking the Jeremy name out would be better. Afton kills the 5 kids, stuffs them in the suits, and then eventually, they start to notice that the suit's starting to smell. There's blood, there's mucus, all this shit is starting to ooze, there's crap going on, and it's not going well, it's not looking well. And so Fazbear Entertainment closes. Fredbear and Friends also closes because of the Bite 87 incident. So now both businesses are closed. But the new manager who was hired and who was recently shifted into the business now takes over. He's now the head honcho because Henry is being questioned by the authorities as well as Afton. So they can't run the new business. So this new manager, the phone guy, is going to run the new business. And he opens up the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And this is where we get the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, where Jeremy Fitzgerald, who's probably just some random schmuck who takes the job, thinking, I'm gonna get paid, this easy summer job, all that crap, and then it turns out that shit is not real, because what also happened is that there was another murder that happened. Another murder. Afton saw another opportunity to kill again. A kid was exiled from the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. So what happened to that little kid? Well, that little kid got shanked. That little kid died and was murdered, but that kid turned into the marionette puppet because there was a puppet that was being created, and the puppet was like a security puppet that was watching over, and then the kid would eventually possess the puppet and become the puppet. And so now the puppet gives the life to the 5 kids, and so now the animatronics are finally possessed, and it was just when Jeremy gets the job, and so now these possessed animatronics, they after Jeremy. They think that Jeremy might be the guy. And so the new animatronics, which were specifically designed to protect kids, to make sure that no murders happened again and watched out, they get fucked over by the marionette, because the marionette is in charge of the whole shit. So now the new animatronics think that, Jeremy might be the killer. Jeremy, this adult might be it, because they were looking at all the adults. So now Jeremy is getting fucked over for 5-6 nights. Meanwhile, Afton, evidence is piling on top of Afton. He gets arrested, just like he does in the novel, but also in the novel, they couldn't really keep him in prison because they didn't have a lot of evidence, so they had to release him. And at the same time, Jeremy, he begins to get a little traumatized, but he wants to know more about the place. He wants to know more about Fazbear, so what the fuck is going on, why this is happening, and why the previous employee who also worked the night shift was complaining about the same crap, and what was going on with him.
Damn!
Now, I think that the previous employee, what should happen to him is that he probably kills himself, and then that alludes to what the police report is about the whole thing. So, oh, the employee killed himself, and then that person who killed himself should either be like a shadow figure, like Shadow Freddy or Shadow Bonnie, you know, something like that, you know, as like a haunting. It's like, ooh, somebody died and it was because of this. And then once Jeremy makes it through the 6th night, he's done. He moves to the day shift, but that boy is traumatized. He is fucked up. He does not trust the pizzeria at all. But at the same time, the place is about to close. A new employee is hired, and that employee is Afton, but he's disguised with a name called Fritz. He's using one of the dead child's names, Fritz, to get into the building and, you know, be the security guard. And what he's doing is that this is where he dismantles the animatronics. He goes one by one. I'm gonna destroy you, I'm gonna destroy you, I'm gonna destroy you. And then once he destroys all of the animatronics, their spirits come, they haunt him, and then they get him trapped in one of the golden suits in the back room, and he gets fucked over. But it turned out that he survived and he escaped and he's still alive. So the new Fazbear Entertainment is closed down, and so the phone guy, he creates this new restaurant, the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. He tries to reopen it again. It takes a few years, but he eventually manages it. He tries to get into contact with Henry. He finds out that Henry has actually killed himself, just like he did in the novel. And Mike, who is now grown up, he's now a young adult, he finds out about this and he wants to help his brother, who's probably deceased by this point in time because he probably pulled the plug. And so now Mike is fucked up, but he doesn't want Fazbear's to be running, and so he takes the night shift and he's like, man, I gotta put this shit down. But it turns out that the phone guy is dead because he died the week prior, and so now Mike has to try and bring it down, but he fails. And so I think that Mike should die at the end of FNAF 1, just like we see in the suits. That's exactly what I think would happen to Mike. Also because I think Afton would play a little game, a part of this, to where he would cause Mike to die, because we see in like night 7 termination notice and all that crap. And it's also in some kind of mall area is where Fazbear's was. It's like it was in a constructed mall before it was abandoned, before they abandoned the construction. And so now we skip ahead a few years, and now the person who is watching the mall is Dave Miller. And that's where we get the events of Silver Eyes. Silver Eyes plays out exactly as it was. And then once that happens, Afton, of course, he gets clapped again by the spring lock suit. But this time now, Charlie and her friends, they could finally put to rest all the animatronics, because now the police know about it, now the police understand it, and so now the children's story finally ends, and then we have like the mini games from FNAF 3. This is what it would interpret with their ending. This is how they end. This is how their story ends. So now Charlie is satisfied that she managed to bring her friend's story to an end. However, Afton's story is not over yet. Now we jump in ahead in the future a few years to where now a horror attraction is being created of Fazbear Entertainment by these couple of bros, these couple of dudes, and they want Jeremy Fitzgerald, a former night guard of the Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria, to take the spotlight as the main security guard. So, you know, he's the main security guard. It's like, oh look, Jeremy, a former survivor, he can inform you when you get to the end. He could be like, oh, this is what happened to me, you better watch out, otherwise, you know, like some kind of horror attraction. You know, you want to have somebody with knowledge and past experience. But what Jeremy Fitzgerald didn't know is that the building not only is kind of fucked with all the heat and shit, but they added Springtrap to the mix because they found Springtrap, and now Springtrap's in the mix, and now Jeremy's trauma, his PTSD is coming up again, and that's why we get all this shit in FNAF 3. He's like, oh shit, not this shit again. But this time, you know, eventually when we get to the final nights, Jeremy is determined to bring this place to the ground. So that's what he does. He burns the place to the ground, and that is the end of Five Nights at Freddy's. That's how I would have bookended that storyline, that arc for me personally. But with maybe like the lingering questions like, did Springtrap make it out alive? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, who knows? And that would be like the little tease. And then of course for Sister Location, I would have that be like a spin-off series. So like Sister Location was the spin-off place that kind of had some spring lock failures and it wasn't really good, and so it closed down. But many years later, it was rebuilt, reconstructed, so now it is a new pizzeria in the far future with this technology that's like shape-shifting animatronics and robots, and it's all this crazy new updated fancy cool shit. But this time, rather than it being possessed animatronics, I want the animatronics to be robots gone rogue type of shit, you know. So these animatronics, they're just rogue animatronics. Their systems are just fucked over. They're not possessed or anything, but they're crazy, and now they are specifically designed to kill. We removed the whole Afton arc in Sister Location, and it just have it just somebody else created sister location animatronics. And that's what I think the series should have been going forward. You know, like something new, something fresh, and then eventually they could do the glitch thing from FNAF VR and do that kind of story arc. But you know, there's a lot of ways that FNAF could have continued and it still being very satisfying without having all this retcon, all this convoluted shit. It would have been really great to see, but that's just me. How about y'all? How would y'all have booked Five Nights at Freddy's if you had Scott Cawthon's ability to write, you had his blessing? I don't know, but for me, this is how I would do it. Anyway, that's all I got. Arrivederci, bitch ass motherfucker.